This morning, as you rise, you are not just waking up into another day. You are stepping into a divine assignment. Hear me, the realm of the spirit responds to voices, not intentions. What you declare becomes what you experience. Heaven has already spoken, but it takes a believer who understands authority to echo the sound of God upon the earth. Today, I decree over you, your morning will not be ordinary, your steps will not be casual, and your journey will not be without covering. Every morning declaration becomes a verdict in the realm of the spirit. You are about to establish your atmosphere, frame your day, and command your destiny by the word of God. Lift your voice, engage your heart, and declare these scriptures with power. This is not recitation, it is legislation. Prayer activates divine protection in a way that transcends human reasoning. Because prayer is not merely a religious exercise, it is a spiritual technology that opens the corridors of the invisible realm and summons the covering of God over your life. Whenever a believer prays, especially from a place of sincerity and alignment with God's will, there is a stirring in the unseen. Forces you cannot see begin to move. Angels you didn't call by name begin to respond, and atmospheres around you begin to shift in obedience to spiritual law. Prayer is the believer's loud announcement to darkness that they are not walking alone, not standing alone, not fighting alone. It is the declaration that the covering of the Almighty has been invoked, and every malicious intention formed against them must now bow to a higher authority. Divine protection does not happen by accident. It is released through spiritual engagement. When a person prays, they acknowledge God as their ultimate defender, and that very posture of surrender creates room for heaven's intervention. Prayer is the invitation that permits the hand of God to stretch forth and shield his own from danger, destruction, and premature assault. Many dangers pass by unnoticed. Many traps are dismantled before they even appear, and many arrows are turned back before they can touch your life, all because prayer went ahead of you to sanitize your environment and secure your journey. Prayer sends forth a sound into the realm of the spirit that says, this one is marked, this one is covered, this one is under covenant. And the kingdom of darkness knows how to interpret spiritual markings. Every time you pray for divine protection, you build a spiritual wall around your life piece by piece. It is not a fragile barrier formed by emotion. It is a fortress constructed from the promises of God, the blood of the Lamb, and the authority given to you through Christ. Prayer fastens those elements together and turns them into a shield that cannot be penetrated by forces of cruelty. Even when you cannot see what is coming, prayer becomes your eyes. Even when you are not aware of the plots rising in dark places, prayer becomes your defense. No believer survives the wickedness of the world by chance. They survive because something in them refuses to begin a day uncovered. Prayer becomes the clothing of the spirit, the armor of the heart, the mantle that wraps around every step you take. A praying believer carries an atmosphere with them. There is a fragrance that follows them, an invisible but tangible spiritual signature that signals that God's presence surrounds them. Environments respond to that presence. People who intend evil become confused. Accidents divert. Attacks dissolve. Unseen entities withdraw. Not because the person is powerful in themselves, but because prayer has magnetized the presence of God toward their direction. And where God is present, danger loses its authority. A person who prays becomes a moving sanctuary, a walking expression of divine security, a carrier of the fire of God that burns against encroaching darkness. Prayer also activates discernment, another dimension of divine protection. Sometimes protection is not only about God stopping danger, it is also about God showing you what to avoid. Prayer sharpens your inner senses, tuning your spirit to hear warnings, nudges, and redirections that you would otherwise ignore. You find yourself delaying a journey without knowing why, taking a different route, saying no to a meeting, or stepping away from a conversation, only to realize later that God was guiding you away from harm. Prayer keeps your spiritual antenna alive, preventing you from walking blindly into the traps of the enemy. When you pray, you not only ask God to protect you, you align yourself with His protective system. His word becomes your sword. His presence becomes your shield. His angels become your escorts. Prayer activates these dimensions simultaneously. It strengthens your confidence, knowing that you are surrounded even when alone, guarded even when unaware, defended even when asleep. There is a peace that floods your heart because prayer has shifted the battle from your hands to God's hands. You no longer walk into the day fearful of what might happen. You walk boldly, knowing heaven has gone ahead of you. In the realm of the spirit, silence is vulnerability. A quiet believer is a spiritually exposed believer. But a praying believer is an armed believer. Prayer declares to darkness that your life is off limits. It seals your home, your path, your mind, and your destiny. It summons the God who neither sleeps nor slumbers to keep watch over you. And when God watches over you, no force in any realm can outmaneuver His vigilance. Prayer makes you untouchable, unmovable, and unreachable by the arrows that fly by day or the terrors that lurk in the night. Through prayer, you step into a covering that is impenetrable, and you walk under the shadow of the Almighty, safe, secured, and preserved. To speak over your day with authority is to step into the original mandate God gave humanity: to rule, to subdue, and to govern creation through the power of words. Every day arrives like an empty canvas, carrying both visible and invisible possibilities. It responds not first to your actions, but to your declarations. What you say in the morning becomes the spiritual architecture that shapes the hours ahead. Authority is not noise, it is alignment with divine order. When you speak from that alignment, heaven backs your voice, circumstances yield, atmospheres shift, and unseen forces adjust themselves to the blueprint of your confession. Your words are not mere sounds, they are tools, weapons, seeds, and laws in the realm of the spirit. When you wake up and remain silent, you allow the day to speak first, and whatever speaks first establishes dominance. But when you rise and declare, when you arise and prophesy over your day, you become the first voice to legislate what is permitted and what is forbidden. You speak life into the hours ahead, establishing boundaries that darkness cannot cross, and summoning possibilities that would have remained dormant if your mouth stayed closed. Authority is released when intention becomes utterance. What you believe becomes weighty when it is declared. To speak over your day is to recognize that every day carries its own warfare, its own opportunities, and its own spiritual dynamics. Not every day greets with peace, and not every day carries ease. But the one who knows how to speak with spiritual authority is not intimidated by the unknown. Instead, they stand as a spiritual gatekeeper and declare, this day will submit to the will of God. This day will align with purpose. This day will not bring destruction but favor. Your day is not an uncontrollable force. You are invited by God to shape it with your words. The supernatural world is voice activated, and the natural world is voice responsive. When you release the right words, you command both realms at once. Authority is rooted in identity. You speak boldly when you know who you are, and the realm of the spirit listens when your words come from the consciousness of your divine position. When you speak over your day, you are not pleading with creation. You are commanding as one deputized by God. You are not trying to convince darkness. You are announcing verdicts already validated in heaven. This is why your morning confessions must not be casual whispers, but intentional decrees. Speak to your mind, speak to your emotions, Speak to your assignments. Speak to your opportunities. Speak to your environment. The same way Jesus spoke to storms and trees is the same way you are called to speak to hours and seasons. To speak over your day with authority is to dismantle what the enemy planned during the night. Darkness operates in silence, but your voice exposes and uproots its projections. When you declare that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, you are not being poetic. You are issuing a spiritual injunction that forces every hidden plot to fail. When you declare that goodness and mercy shall follow you, you are summoning divine escorts that accompany you into every interaction, every decision, every place you step. When you speak favor into your day, you activate supernatural influence that opens doors without human permission. The tongue becomes the steering wheel of your destiny, turning your day in the direction of God's intention. Speaking with authority also means refusing to let your emotions dictate your declarations. Even if you feel weak, you proclaim strength. Even if you feel uncertain, you declare clarity. Even if you feel overwhelmed, you speak peace. Your feelings may fluctuate, but authority remains consistent. You don't speak what you feel, you speak what is true in the spirit, and your feelings eventually submit. This is spiritual maturity, choosing to align your mouth with God's word rather than your temporary emotional landscape. What you repeatedly proclaim begins to manifest because authority is exercised through consistency. When you speak over your day, you announce to the atmosphere that you are not available for chaos, distraction, or negativity. You set spiritual boundaries that prevent contamination from entering your mental space. You remind your spirit of its assignment, your soul of its stability, and your body of its strength. You position yourself under heaven's covering and ensure that every step you take is spiritually endorsed. The words you speak in the morning become the guards that stand at the gates of your hours, filtering what enters and determining what is allowed to unfold. There is a mysterious power in proactive declaration. Life responds differently to the one who speaks before events occur. You don't wait for trouble to arise before you declare peace. You speak peace and trouble loses permission to manifest. You don't wait for confusion to form before you declare wisdom. You speak wisdom and confusion dissolves. You don't wait for doors to close before you declare access. You speak access and doors begin to unlock. This is the spiritual lifestyle of authority, anticipating the unseen, commanding the unknown, and shaping the day before the day attempts to shape you. When you speak over your day with authority, you are not merely influencing time, you are influencing destiny. Every declaration builds momentum. Every proclamation births alignment, and every spoken truth summons divine order. You rise not as a passive participant in your day, as a spiritual commander, legislating, shaping, directing, and ruling through words that carry the weight of God's breath. This is how a believer walks through each day, covered, empowered, aware, and in mastery, because their voice has already gone ahead to prepare the way. To ask for strength, wisdom, and destiny helpers is to acknowledge that no human being rises by effort alone. There are dimensions in life that cannot be accessed through intelligence, discipline, or desire. There are burdens too heavy for the mind, seasons too complex for intuition, and journeys too demanding for individual endurance. When a person humbles themselves before God and asks for these three graces, they open the door to realms of divine empowerment that cannot be earned or engineered by human will. Strength is the force that sustains your spirit when life becomes overwhelming. Wisdom is the illumination that reveals the correct path in seasons of uncertainty. Destiny helpers are the vessels through which God extends his hand in tangible form. To ask for these things is to admit your dependency on God and simultaneously position yourself to receive supernatural assistance that lifts you beyond the limitations of mortality. Strength is not the absence of weakness, it is the divine reinforcement that transforms weakness into capacity. There are moments when the soul grows weary, when the heart becomes faint, and when the pressures of life feel like an invisible weight pressing down relentlessly. In those moments, human motivation is not enough. Positive thinking is too fragile. Emotional resilience cracks under prolonged strain. But when you ask God for strength, you invite the Spirit of God to breathe upon you, to fill you with endurance that does not originate from your humanity. Strength becomes the inner fire that refuses to be extinguished by adversity. It becomes the supernatural vitality that keeps you standing when everything around you tempts you to fall. It is the quiet courage to keep walking, the grace to keep believing, the stability to keep moving forward. Divine strength suspends you above the collapse that the enemy expected and becomes the testimony that God carried you through a storm you were never built to survive on your own. Wisdom is the compass of destiny. Life is full of intersections, decisions, and pathways that appear similar but lead to drastically different outcomes. Without wisdom, a person can pursue opportunities that look promising but are destructive. Without wisdom, one can invest time, energy, and emotion into relationships that drain rather than build. Without wisdom, a person can sabotage their own destiny simply because they did not perceive the will of God hidden beneath the noise of life. When you ask for wisdom, you are not merely asking for knowledge, you are asking for divine insight, spiritual clarity, and the ability to interpret situations the way God sees them. Wisdom is the light that exposes deception, the voice that whispers direction in silence, and the discernment that protects you from unnecessary battles. It is the grace to make decisions that preserve your destiny rather than derail it. Wisdom positions you where favor flows, where opportunities align, and where divine timing becomes evident. It prevents you from moving too early or too late, guiding you to move exactly when heaven moves. Destiny helpers are a mystery in God's design for human advancement. No one rises alone. Even the strongest, the most gifted, and the most disciplined still require the touch of another to ascend to their ordained place. Destiny helpers carry something you do not have: access, influence, counsel, encouragement, resources, or alignment. They are the people God ordains to hold your hands up when you grow weary, to open doors you could not open, to speak your name in places you cannot enter, to protect you from dangers you cannot see, and to propel you into opportunities that exceed your personal reach. Asking God for destiny helpers is an acknowledgement that your journey is intertwined with others. Some who will walk with you for a season, and others who will stand with you for a lifetime. These are not ordinary relationships, they are divine appointments orchestrated for your advancement. When God sends destiny helpers, your pace increases. What once seemed impossible begins to unfold naturally. Delays break, stagnation lifts. Suddenly your life accelerates because people assigned by heaven begin to play their role.